Welcome to the part 2 of my series. In this episode we will make login and register for our chat application, and this is going to be interesting because we want the chat application to be login and register with Android, iOS and web. So we can just make a form with NodeJS. We need to make an API which would take the username and passwords from the user and just process it accordingly. So in the last episode we had just connected with the database and we had used this, and I have this here, and we use this code to connect to our database. And after connecting to the database, we just created a user model which contained all the details which one user would have. So just specifically just listing out what are the properties of a user. It's simple. So in today's episode we will just look at login and register. It's not too hard, it's easy. So let's get into it. So first of all, we need two routes. We need the login route and the register route. So how do we make it? The real question is, we can just make it here, like we just did this. We can just make it here, but the thing is that it's not clean. We should make routes and we should just do it in separate files. So to do that, I'll just make here files name routers, and in routers I'll make a file name api.js. And in this, it's nothing so special. You just need to initialize express like we did in the root file. So here we go, const express is equal to require express, and instead of defining app we define router. So router is equal to express dot router. So the reason we define this as router because this is a router and not an actual Node.js root app. We have the Node.js root app. So now in the final line we just export it. Module.exports is equal to router. We need to export the router so that the root can use it. So we'll just save it. Let's go to index.js. We will just need to import it now. So const API, you can just give any names to your variables. So require, we need to go to routers, and inside routers we need API. And now for this to work we need to use app.use /API is the route, and we need API router to handle this route. So this is how you set up routers. So now we will go into actual login and registration. Now to test and now to just make the routes, we will just go to this file api.js, and now here we will go ahead and make a new route name router.post, and we want this to be post request. We don't want the username and password going on the URL bar. So we will just do it as login, and login will contain request and response. This is basic Node.js, and we will just leave it blank for now. We will also make the register route for now. So router.post and /register. We will request response, and we will just leave it empty for now. So for now we will just change, we will see if this router is working. So I again forgot the spacing. There we go. I'll just do rest.json message router working. Now the problem here is that we just cannot test it. By the way, let me run it. Test. Okay, so it's going to take time. The thing is that we just cannot test it because this is a post route, and by the way we never test routes on a browser. So there's an application named Postman. So let's just go to Postman and try this route if it's working. The server is started. Yeah, it's starting, but it will be started soon. it's the first time in the day which I have started to Node.js, so it will take some time, not a lot, but it will take time. So till then, let's go to Postman. Okay, so we are in Postman, so we will just hit the route now. So HTTP localhost, oh sorry, /API/login. Let's see if we get the intended response. Okay, so this is because the route was actually post. So you need to remember this. You should not make this mistake. You should always set the correct method and just then post. Okay, so we got the message that router is working. So the router is fine. So now we can start with login and register finally. So let's go. So what's the thing you think of when thinking of login? So basically you need to get the data from user. So to get the data from user, there is something called a body parser, which we need to install in order to pass the body of the request which has been sent by your client. So to do that, let's go and open a new terminal, and I'll just write npm install body parser. Here we go, and this will get installed in a bit, and you just need to include that here. Yeah, so const body parser require body parser. Here we go. And then after requiring, we need to instruct Express to use the body parser. So how do we do that? So app.use body parser dot JSON, and we need to also do this app.use body parser dot URL encoded, and in this we need to pass extended true. So this is a much of a boilerplate. You need to just, and you don't need to understand anything of this. You just need to know that you need to do this in order to get the data from the client. So since we use this can be used in the client in the API route without even including that. So that's basically a middleware which fetches all the data and just puts it in your request variable. So let's go here. We don't need this anymore. So we need to get the username and password. So to get the username and password, we do const username. First of all, we need to check if there is a username or password. So we do if request.body, now we will do request.body.username or request.body.password. By the way, username and password are the name of the fields which we have given them. So if username and password are not there, just return a response ris.status with a bad request, and just give a JSON and just give a message with this that all fields are required. Here we go. And we could just do this, and let's try to do that using Postman. We will not pass anything, and let's see what happens. Or wait, let us just return a response if username and password are sent. So return res.json, username would be request.body.username. Sorry, that's all we need to do for testing, of course. So let's get back to Postman and let's check. Okay, so let's just try to send this. If we try to send this, it will do say all fields are required. If we go to body and if we do maybe raw and we just pass JSON here, so here, so let's pass the username as test and let's this should be like this. I always forget this, and this is a thing you should never do. Let's try to send this. It will still say all fields are required because we need to give a password too. So here we go, and let's give the password as test2. So if we send this, it will just return your username. So we know that this is working. Now we could just go ahead, query the database and see how does it even work. So let's get back to VS Code. Before even going to the Visual Studio Code, let's make a user, because we need to log in the user, so the user must even exist. So I'll just insert a document here. So I'll just keep the username as test, the password as test, and the name as test user. So basically we will have encryption, but to do encryption we need to register the user, and while registering the user we need to give the encrypted password. So for the login I'm just leaving it now. After we make the register component, I'll just switch this to encrypted one. So let's get back to VS Code now. Now after just doing this, after checking if we have we have all the required data, so we will just remove this. We don't want to just return the username, we want to actually log in. So what we need to do first, we need to just store these things in a separate variable. So wait, I'll just do the simpler way. Username is equal to request dot body dot username, and password is equal to request dot body dot password. Okay, so that's one way you can do this, but you don't want to type all of this again and again. So I'll just remove this and do it the simpler way. So const username password, and I want this from request.body. So this is called destructure, and it will just take these values out from request.body, and this will be different variables. So here, so now we need to check from the database if the username or password exists. So we made the users model, and if the username and password exist, we need to send them a token, and we need to store the token in the database, and we need to make that here. So token should be string. We will be making many changes to this as we move along, so just save it from here, and here I'll just we will need to first import that, right? So const user is equal to require, I need from models, I need user. Now we can use the user model. So we need to use this as async function because we need to use await, which makes our lives more easier. So let's go here, let's do const user object, and I'll set it to user dot find one, because we need to find only one user, because username and password will be unique, not exactly password, but one username will be only once. So we need, if you see this, we need to send the conditions, and we will just send the conditions like this: username and password. So we don't need to write it like this. because the username and password are variable names, and the variable names and name there is almost the same, so we don't need to do that. So yeah, I always forget this. You need to make this await, and you don't need any callbacks, so just finish this here. Now you need to check if user object if user object doesn't exist, we will just say res.status of 400, and I'll just JSON out that message username or password is incorrect. Let's just try this out in Postman. So let's just try to send this again. Let's see what happens. Okay, so there must be something wrong. Yeah, there's something wrong. The password is test and we didn't define what to do if the password is not same. So let's just cancel this request. We will just change the password a bit and let's see. Yeah, so it says username and password is incorrect. So why this was not happening? Because we just provided him the correct password and we didn't tell him what to do if the password is correct. So let's get back to VS Code and just write the code for what will happen if the password is correct. Now to make a token we need packages, so just go along and install these packages: JSON web token and writing and there, so .env. So JSON web token is used to make tokens, by the way, and .env is a file where we can just store our API keys and that can just read our file. So let's go here. I need to so here we need to just go to here and just index.js, and we just need to include .env. so you don't need to make separate variables for it, so require .env .config. that's all, nothing you need to do. So go here, make new file .env and just make pass salt and just set it to any string of your choice. It should be long enough, but for this course I'll just do test string, and you need to keep this private, by the way. And yeah, and if I just go back and I need to get the salt, so and I also need to import JSON web token. So JWT is equal to, I need to import require JSON web token. So here we go, and now we need to generate a token for this user. So we will go down here and we will just do const token is equal to await jwt.sign. Now we need to just provide the username. So I'll just, and you need to provide some data like the user data. You should not include passwords here, so I'll just include the username, because username the user won't be able to change. So I'll just do this, and now you need to provide the secret key. So to do that, we'll just do process.env the password. So by doing this you have the token, and now we need to save this on token. So now since we already have the user object, I would just do user object dot token. I feel that I'm doing something wrong, but let's try to do this. Let's try to do this anyways. So we will just save the token here. there's something wrong. Let's just do this. Token is equal to token. I'm still curious, so let's do user obj.save so that the data is saved to the server, and let's just return this token. I just need to see return res.json token. We will also cross check the token with the MongoDB. So let's just save this. Let's go to Postman. Okay, so let's just put the correct password here and just send this. Okay, so we get the token. So now let's verify this from MongoDB. So let's go to MongoDB. Okay, so the token is here. Like, it's working. It's fine. I thought that I was doing something wrong, but it's working. So yeah, this is how we stole this thing, and I think this is done. Like, login part is here is done, but what I think that we should at least try and just return the username for the client to get some more info. So let's go here and just also return the username. That's all, and it will also just include username. So I think this episode has been long. I was thinking of covering registration from now, but this is already too long, and I'll just cover it in the next episode. So I'll see you in the next episode, and if you like the content and if you find it useful, please subscribe. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next one.